I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing this down, but here we are. My name's Mark, and I've been married to Lisa for about 5 years. We met in college, hit it off pretty quickly, and everything seemed fine, at least on the surface. She's always been kinda bossy, a little bitchy sometimes, but I liked her fire. She's sharp, smart, knows how to push my buttons, but I thought that was just her personality. Little did I know that fire was hiding something a lot darker. At first, it was just small things. She started coming home later than usual, saying she had meetings or work trips. She'd dodge questions about where she'd been, give me vague answers. I'd notice her phone vibrating constantly, and she'd quickly swipe it away when I entered the room. Now, I'm not one to invade someone's privacy, but I couldn't shake this feeling she was hiding something. Plus, she became more distant, less affectionate, more snappy and irritable for no reason. I thought maybe she was stressed at work or just generally overwhelmed, but deep down, I suspected it was something else. Things escalated when I started noticing little clues. Her perfume, for example. She's not a perfume person, but suddenly she was wearing a new scent that I'd never smelled on her before. She was also dressing up more, wearing tighter clothes and looking at herself in the mirror more often. I caught her scrolling through her phone at odd hours. Texts from an unknown number kept popping up with flirtatious messages. I tried to brush it off, tell myself I was paranoid, but the gut feeling kept gnawing at me. One night I came home early from a business trip because I wasn't feeling well. I expected her to be at work, but instead I heard noises coming from the bedroom. I peeked through the crack in the door, and what I saw made my stomach drop. Lisa was in bed with some guy, her legs wrapped around him, her face flushed. They weren't just talking, they were definitely having sex. I could see everything. The way she looked at him like he was the only person in the world, and her hands on his chest like she was trying to cling to something. I froze, unable to move. My mind went blank, then exploded. That's when I saw enough. She must have heard me because she suddenly sat up, flustered, trying to cover herself. The other guy looked up, startled, and scrambled for his clothes. I didn't even bother saying a word. I just backed out, shut the door, and stood there in the hallway trying to process what I'd just seen. My wife, the woman I loved and trusted, cheated on me right in our bed. I didn't cry or yell at that moment. I just felt numb. Anger, betrayal, confusion, all swirling inside me like a storm. How long had this been going on? Was she cheating on me during our supposed marital bliss, or was this recent? I didn't sleep that night, just lay awake thinking about everything. The next morning I confronted her. I wanted answers, real answers. I needed to know if this was just a one-time thing or if I'd been blind to her lies the entire time. When I asked her, her face twisted into this bitchy sneer, like I was the one invading her privacy. She told me I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that I always accuse her of things. She denied everything, said it was just a mistake, that she was confused, and that I didn't understand her, that she was stressed at work, that she needed some space, that I was suffocating her. But I knew better. I saw the way she lied with that fake smile, the way her eyes darted around, trying to make me doubt what I saw. My mind was racing. Part of me wanted to tear her apart. Another part just wanted to cry and scream. I felt betrayed by the woman I thought I knew, and honestly, I hated her in that moment. I hated her for lying, for cheating, for making me feel like I was losing my mind. I kept replaying that night over and over, remembering the look on her face when she saw me at the door, how she tried to act innocent. But I knew the truth now, and that truth changed everything. After that confrontation, things got even worse. Lisa kept up her act of innocence, acting like I was crazy for even asking. She insisted she'd been under a lot of stress, that it was just a dumb mistake and that I should forget about it. Yeah, right, I could see right through her. Bullshit now. She was a master at lying, but I wasn't about to fall for her antics anymore. The trust was shattered, and I knew I couldn't go back to pretending everything was okay. I started paying closer attention to her every move. She was still acting bitchy, snapping at me for the smallest things like I was the problem. But I was. I could tell she was hiding something bigger, something she was trying to cover up. I was furious at myself for not noticing sooner, for being so blind to her games. I had invested 5 years in this woman, thinking I knew her inside out, and turns out she was just a liar and a cheat. I kept asking myself, how did it get so bad? How did I miss all the signs? Part of me wanted to confront her again, to demand the truth, but I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. Instead, I started collecting evidence. I went through her phone secretly when she was in the shower, scrolling through her messages. I found more flirtatious texts, even some explicit ones. There were pictures she'd sent, and I saw that she'd been meeting up with this guy Jason, some tech developer she'd been talking to at work. They'd been exchanging all sorts of disgusting stuff, and I could see how deep this was becoming. The worst part was feeling this crushing sense of betrayal. I'd always believed in honesty, in loyalty, but she'd thrown that all away just for some fleeting excitement with a guy who was nothing compared to me. It was humiliating. I kept asking myself, how could she do this? How could she lie so easily? Every time I thought about her in bed with him, the image burned into my mind like a scar. I felt sick, angry, but mostly just heartbroken. I'd never felt so stupid in my life. How did I not see this coming? How did I miss the signs that she was already gone emotionally, if not physically? I started to plan my next move. I knew I couldn't just storm in and accuse her again. That would only make her more defensive, more manipulative. Instead, I decided I'd gather proof, get her to admit everything on her own, and then decide what to do. I wanted her to see that I knew, that I wasn't some fool she could lie to anymore. I also knew I couldn't keep living like this, walking on eggshells, pretending I was okay with her betrayal. My mind was racing constantly, trying to figure out how to turn this mess back into some kind of control over my life. One afternoon, I found her phone lying on the kitchen counter when she wasn't looking. I hesitated, then grabbed it. I knew I was crossing a line, but I couldn't help myself. I unlocked it, and there it was, more messages from Jason, more evidence of their encounters. They'd been sneaking off to some hotel. I saw the receipts. I felt that familiar jolt in my stomach, the mix of rage and despair. This was real. It wasn't just a fling. It was something she was actively hiding, actively lying about. That night, I made up my mind. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. I needed to confront her again, but this time with the proof. I waited until she came home, her bitchy attitude already in full swing. When she walked into the apartment, I didn't say a word. I just threw the phone on the table and looked her in the eyes. Her face paled immediately, but she still tried to play it cool, like she didn't know what I was talking about. Her lips trembled for a second before she started with her usual lies, denying everything, claiming I was crazy, accusing me of stalking her. But I wasn't having it anymore. I told her I knew the truth, that I had all the evidence. Her face twisted into a sneer, and she snapped back that I was paranoid and possessive, that she was just talking to him, that it meant nothing. That's when I realized her lies were just getting more pathetic. The facade was cracking, and I felt this mixture of disgust and anger boiling inside me. I wanted to scream at her, tell her how much I hated her lying face, but I kept my cool. I just looked at her and said, "You're done. I can't do this anymore." And I knew that was the start of the end. After that night, everything started to spiral even further out of control. Lisa's bitchy attitude turned into outright defiance. She was still acting like she was innocent, like I was the crazy one for believing she could do something so disgusting. She kept throwing her lies around, saying I was stalking her, accusing me of invading her privacy, trying to make me feel like I was overreacting. But I had all the proof now, and I wasn't about to back down. I could see her trying to manipulate me, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. I decided I had to take a step back and think about what I really wanted. I was furious, yeah, but I also felt broken. My trust was shattered, and I didn't know if I could ever get it back. I started questioning everything, our life together, whether I was even enough for her. It hurt so badly to realize that the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was capable of such lies and betrayal. I kept replaying that night in my head, wishing I could undo everything, wishing I could turn back time. But I knew that wasn't possible, so I made a decision. I would confront her again, but this time with a plan. I wanted her to admit everything, to see that I was serious. I arranged to meet her after work, hopping. I could get her to tell me the full truth. When she showed up, she was sassy, bitchy as usual, trying to act like she was the victim. She denied everything, said I was being paranoid, and accused me of spying on her. That's when I pulled out the receipts, screenshots of the hotel bookings, text messages, photos of her with Jason. Her face twisted in anger and disbelief. She started yelling, calling me obsessive, accusing me of ruining her life. She told me I was overreacting, that I was making a mountain out of a molehill, but I wasn't letting her get away with it anymore. I told her I'd had enough of her lies and I wanted a real explanation. That's when she started spinning her usual bullshit, saying it was all a mistake, that she didn't mean for it to go this far. She cried, she begged, pretended she was remorseful, but I could see through every fake tear, every fake apology. She was just trying to save her ass, but I wasn't buying it. The emotional roller coaster was brutal. I felt rage, betrayal, then deep sadness, like I'd lost the woman I thought I loved. I'd always believed in honesty and loyalty, and now I was faced with the harsh reality that those values had been thrown out the window. I was angry at her for lying, angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, and angry at how she could manipulate the truth so easily. I started questioning everything about our marriage and whether I could even trust her again. Honestly, I wanted to walk away, but part of me still clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, we could fix this. But deep down, I knew it was too late. The damage was done, and I was starting to see that maybe I deserved better than a wife who would cheat behind my back and lie so effortlessly. I told her I needed time to think, that I couldn't just forgive her and move on. She begged me not to leave, to give her another chance, but I felt nothing but coldness. The girl I once loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize, someone who lied, manipulated, and betrayed everything I held dear. That night I stayed awake again, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. I realized I couldn't keep living in this chaos. I had to decide whether I was going to fight for us or walk away for good. I knew she wasn't going to change overnight, and I also knew I didn't want to keep living in this constant state of suspicion and betrayal. It was clear. Either she fixed herself or I would leave her behind. I was tired of being the fool, tired of feeling like I was the only one trying. I had to choose my own peace, even if it hurt like hell. The days that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and endless thoughts. I kept going back and forth. Should I give her another chance? Should I pack my bags and walk out? Every time I looked at her, I saw the same bitchy smirk she always had when she was lying. She kept trying to spin her lies, saying it was all just a mistake, that she was under stress, that I was overreacting. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I saw how she looked at Jason, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about him, like she was still hiding something. That was the real problem. She was still lying, still pretending everything was fine. I decided I needed to do something drastic. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, feeling angry and betrayed one moment, then hopeful the next. I knew I had to confront her head-on, so I set up a serious conversation. I told her I was done playing games, that I wanted the truth once and for all. She rolled her eyes, sneered, and threw out a bunch of excuses: stress, work, feeling neglected. Classic Lisa. But I refused to be manipulated anymore. I pulled out the evidence I'd collected: screenshots of her texts, hotel receipts, even some of her private messages on social media that she'd forgotten to delete. Her face went cold. She tried to deny everything, claiming I was stalking her, that I was crazy. She accused me of invading her privacy, which made me laugh bitterly. If she had been honest from the start, none of this would have happened. I told her I wasn't going to stand for her lies anymore. I wanted her to understand how much she'd hurt me, how I felt like a fool, like I'd wasted years on someone who didn't even care about me. I could see her trying to maintain her bitchy attitude, but inside I knew she was cracking. The cracks in her facade were showing, and I felt a tiny bit of relief. Finally, she was cornered. But then out of nowhere, she snapped. Her voice went shrill and she started screaming at me, saying I was crazy, that I was overreacting, that I was the problem all along, that I was controlling, possessive, and that I didn't understand her needs. She told me I was smothering her, that she needed space, that I was driving her away. I couldn't believe her. I'd always been patient, I'd never raised my voice. Yet here she was, trying to turn everything around, making me feel like I was the one at fault. It was infuriating. I just looked at her and told her that I wasn't going to keep playing her game. Either she fixed herself and told the truth, or I was done. The worst part was that I still loved her, or at least I thought I did. Or maybe I was just afraid of being alone, of facing a life without her. But seeing her like this, so manipulative and cold, made me realize I deserved better. I started to actualize that maybe I'd been a fool for trusting her so blindly. She was a liar, plain and simple, and now I didn't know if I could ever look at her the same way again. I told her I was leaving for a few days to think, that I needed space. She begged, cried, and told me she'd change, but I knew better. Change wasn't coming from her. She was only sorry she got caught, not sorry for what she did. I packed a bag, left the apartment, and stayed with a friend for a couple of nights. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Sitting alone, I realized how much I'd sacrificed for this relationship, my happiness, my trust, my peace. I'd always been the stable one, the guy who tried to keep everything together. But I also knew that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you have to walk away from the lies, from the betrayal, and rebuild your life from scratch. I couldn't keep pretending that I was okay with this, not anymore. I was hurting, yes, but I was also starting to see a way forward. What really hit me was the realization that I'd been so eager to fix things, to patch up what had been broken, that I'd ignored all the warning signs. Her bitchy attitude, her lies, her constant deflection, these weren't just minor flaws. They were red flags, and I'd been too blind to see them. But now, standing here, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew I had to make a decision. Whether to fight for my marriage or walk away, I had to choose what was best for me. I couldn't keep living in her shadow, waiting for her to change, because I knew deep down that wasn't happening. The choice was clear. I had to do what was right for myself, even if it hurt like hell. A few days passed, and those days felt like an eternity. I kept going back and forth. Should I try to salvage this? Or was I just prolonging my own misery? Every time I thought about it, I remembered how she looked with Jason, how she betrayed me in the worst way possible. That image haunted me, but so did the thought of staying with someone who lied so easily, who manipulated and played me for a fool. I knew I could just pretend this didn't happen anymore. I had to face the reality that my marriage, as I knew it, was over. When I finally went back to the apartment, I wasn't expecting her to be there. Honestly, I was prepared to walk away forever. But she was sitting on the couch, looking all bitchy and defensive, trying to act like everything was normal. As soon as I walked in, she started her usual shit, saying she was sorry, that she'd changed, that it was all a mistake. I didn't want to hear her lies anymore. I told her straight up that I knew the truth, that I'd seen everything, the texts, the hotel receipts, her sneaky meetings with Jason. Her fake tears started flowing, but I just felt numb. I looked her straight in the eyes and told her I was done. Done pretending, done trusting her. I explained that I felt like a fool for thinking she loved me, for thinking our marriage was real. The anger I'd been bottling up exploded. I told her she was a selfish bitch, that she threw everything we had away for some stupid affair, that I'd been stupid for staying so long, hoping she'd change. She kept trying to deny it, but I cut her off. I told her I didn't want to hear any more lies, that I wanted her out of my life. She snapped back, trying to turn it around, saying I was overreacting, that I was controlling, that I didn't understand her, that I'd never truly loved her if I was going to do this, that she was just a woman trying to find herself, that she never meant for it to get so serious. Honestly, I just wanted to punch her in the face. I couldn't believe her audacity, trying to justify cheating as if it was some kind of mistake, like she didn't know what she was doing. I finally told her to leave, to get out of my apartment and my life. She hesitated, looking like she was about to cry again, but I was beyond caring. I told her I wanted nothing more to do with her lies and manipulations. As she gathered her things, she yelled, trying to guilt-trip me, saying I'd ruined everything, that I was a jealous, possessive asshole. But I knew the truth. I knew she'd been the one cheating, lying, and playing me for a fool. I was just finally admitting it to myself. After she left, I sat alone, feeling this strange mix of relief and heartbreak. I'd lost her, yeah, but I'd also gained a little bit of clarity. I realized I'd been sacrificing myself for years, trying to keep us together, trying to ignore all the red flags. But I also learned that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you have to walk away and protect what's left of your dignity. I don't regret calling her out or ending things. If anything, I wished I'd seen the signs earlier, saved myself from all this heartbreak. Now I'm left with a lot of questions. Will I ever trust again? Can I recover from this betrayal? Honestly, I don't know. What I do know is that I'm done chasing false hopes. I have to rebuild my life step by step. It's going to take time, maybe a long time, but I'm determined to move on. I deserve someone who's honest, loyal, and who won't betray me like she did. I learned the hard way that sometimes the best revenge is walking away with your head held high, knowing you didn't let her win. By breaking you, it hurts now, but I believe someday I'll be okay. In the weeks that followed her departure, I found myself in a strange state of numbness and clarity. The house felt emptier than I expected. No more bitchy comments, no more her sneering, no more her lies. I started focusing on myself, trying to piece together what was left of my life after all the betrayal. I threw myself into work, spent more time with friends, and slowly, I let go of the hope that she'd somehow come back to fix what she'd broken. Deep down, I knew that the only way forward was to leave the past behind completely. I started really reflecting on everything I'd learned. I realized I'd been too trusting, too eager to see the good in her, even when the signs were screaming at me to wake up. I also learned that I deserved honesty, and if someone couldn't give me that, then I should walk away without hesitation. The heartbreak still stings, but I'm starting to accept that it's part of the healing process. I won't forget what happened, but I will learn from it. That's what I tell myself now anyway. As I rebuild, I'm more cautious with new relationships. I don't want to be naive again. I know now that some people are masters of deception, hiding their true selves behind a mask. I'm not rushing into anything, but I am open to trusting again someday, just with my eyes wide open. I've realized that real love is built on honesty, loyalty, and respect. And if I ever find that again, I'll guard it fiercely. Looking back, I see this whole experience as a brutal lesson. It shattered my illusions, but it also made me stronger. I don't hate Lisa for what she did, at least not anymore. I'm grateful I saw the truth before I stayed in a toxic, broken relationship. I'm grateful I found the strength to walk away and reclaim my life. That's the real victory. I'm not perfect and I still hurt sometimes, but I'm moving forward one step at a time. To anyone out there going through something similar, here's what I've learned. Trust your gut. If something feels off, don't dismiss it. And never stay in a relationship where you're constantly doubting or feeling betrayed. You deserve someone who respects you enough to be honest, no matter how hard the truth may be. I know it hurts now, but you'll get through it. Time heals, and eventually you'll find your way back to happiness. I'm proof of that. Sometimes the greatest revenge is living your best life without the person who betrayed you, and that's exactly what I plan to do.